James K. Polk's claim to fame was serving as the third U.S. president to come from Tennessee. Not as big a player on the historical stage as Andrew Jackson and Andrew Johnson, he just went to Washington, did what he said he would do, and quietly went home. Rob Wiles was curious to learn more about this interesting, lesser-known U.S. president.
A president of the United States and his wife, a first lady, live right here. James K. Polk, 11th President of the United States, is entombed here on the state capitol grounds in Nashville. Now, when he was alive, he lived in a lot of different places. Only 2 of those places still exist. One of them is the White House in Washington, D.C. The other is in Columbia, Tennessee.
Welcome to the ancestral home of President James Knox Polk.
The future president's family moved to Columbia from North Carolina when he was a boy. This was the western frontier of the whole country, and Polk's father wanted to be in on the growth of the nation. John Holsapple, the director of the Polk House, says James's whole life was affected by that move.
When James K. Polk headed off to college, University of North Carolina, the family was living in a log house, maybe about 8 miles from here. By the time he graduated and came back to Columbia, his parents were living in this federal-style brick house, 2-story brick house in downtown Columbia. And this house was almost like a symbol of Western opportunity. The family had moved west and prospered so much that they could build this nice brick house. And that philosophy would sort of be underlying everything James K. Polk did through his political career. The idea if you push west, you have opportunity, that more land meant more opportunity for more Americans. And that's sort of what was underlying his expansionist impulses.
Polk was president from 1845 to 1849. He served only 1 term and then came home. But what a 4 years for the country.
This rather unassuming gentleman, who's often forgotten in the history books, added over 800,000 square miles of land to the country. Texas to California in the Southwest, the Oregon Territory in the Northwest. He entered the presidency with a very straightforward list of things he said he was going to do, and almost a checklist type presidency. He accomplished everything in 4 years, didn't even run for re-election. Harry Truman was a Polk admirer, and Truman said that Polk said what he was going to do, did it, and left. And that pretty much summarizes his presidency.
According to curator Tom Price, we're lucky because many of the treasures the Polks were given or collected were brought with them back to Tennessee.
This is the parlor.
Parlor.
Yes,
Okay.
and in the parlor you're going to find a great collection of furnishings that were either purchased by James and Sarah Polk, or in some cases, like the table here, given as a gift.
Well, that's a discreet little table there. I mean,
it's fantastic, and it
It
speaks
is.
volumes about Polk's presidency. It's a Egyptian marble center table, and it features the presidential seal, of course, and then 30 stars around the outside representing the 30 states of Polk's America. Texas, Iowa, and Wisconsin came in as states 28, 29, and 30 during his presidency.
During Polk's term, technology was booming. The telegraph was first used. So was anesthesia. And a new device could actually show us what people looked like.
This is the earliest period in American history that we get to see photographically speaking. Photography is a brand new invention. The daguerreotype comes into being about 1839. And so we're seeing our very first images of America. We have a couple of early daguerreotypes in our collection, one showing President and Mrs. Polk together in his last year, just a few months before they left office in 1849, which is the only image of the 2 of them together. But where our portraits show sort of a robust young man in the White House, the daguerreotypes don't lie. And you're seeing how frail the man had become by the end of his presidency, and of course he dies 3 months later. But we also have a daguerreotype of President Polk and a number of his cabinet members together, which is an important American photograph, in that it is the very first photograph of a president and his cabinet shown together, and it's also the very first surviving image taken inside the White House as well. So it's an important American photograph.
So many treasures are here, from wonderful furniture to the china the Polks used in the White House. that not so long ago the people who run this site opened another location where more treasures from here, as well as from other museums from around the country, can be exhibited.
We wanted the opportunity to offer changing exhibits to show more of what was going on in America during Polk's lifetime than our focus collections could allow. So we were looking for space for changing exhibits. And there was an old church building that had later been purchased and owned by the Stoltz Printing Company here in town that was available, that was for sale. Since it had been a church at one time, it had a big open space, church sanctuary that could be used as an exhibit hall, and it was ideal for us for offering temporary exhibits. And it was actually on property that had belonged to James K. Polk's father when this house was built.
Polk returned to Tennessee after his term, and 3 months later, he died in a cholera epidemic. His wife, Sarah, outlived him by 40 years, always wearing black in perpetual mourning. Sadly, his passing was hardly even marked by the nation.
I think he suffered even in his own time of being a little bit on the quiet side. He wasn't a larger-than-life figure like Jackson. He wasn't an Abraham Lincoln who liked to endear himself to people and tell interesting stories. James K. Polk lived with blinders on. He was a goal-oriented person, and often it meant working 17, 18 hours in a day.
These days, when style often trumps substance, it might be a good time to appreciate a president who made promises, worked incredibly hard to fulfill them, and then left Washington to go home. We might learn some things from James K. Polk and the many treasures we can see, all at the Polk Home in Columbia.